My name is Benjamin Oladokun. I'm co-founder of Shekel Mobility. Essentially, Shekel Mobility provides critical infrastructure for auto dealers.
I'm Ras Olak. I'm the CEO of Swiftly. We are a SaaS platforms company operating in South Africa, Namibia, Botswana, Zimbabwe.
I am Arjun Parameswaran, and I am the co-founder, and I also run the operations of Alpha Direct Insurance Company.
Luke Mostert, and I'm a 27-year-old from Cape Town, South Africa. I like to think of my work as enabling Africans to secure jobs that they're both proud of, but also enable them to successfully provide for their families.
So as long as you're producing something that innovates, top lesson for any B2B business, any tech business is the market always wins. If you're doing something that people want, no one can block you, no one can stop you, because that's the beauty of demand and supply, and that's the beauty of solving real problems.
Great countries have great institutions, and which is why I think B2B, it's important. As much as it's important to interact with consumers, I think having great institutions is very important, right? So I'd say that one thing I've learned is players must understand their industry.
My favorite lesson about building a B2C business in Africa is from Phil Knight, the co-founder of Nike. He said, we weren't trying to create a brand, we were trying to create a culture. And that's what we've gone about when we were building Catalyze You. We don't think about ourselves as a brand, we think about ourselves as a movement and a culture for young people that want to aspire to attain greater outcomes than their current environment would allow.
When we operate in markets, especially like in Africa, one of the most important things to realize is we're operating in a low trust environment. What does that mean? It means that inherently businesses are very wary of trusting new entrants into the market. They're also built a lot on solid relationships that have existed for a very long time. So there are some barriers to entry for a newcomer into these kind of markets. So one of the things I'd say is operating in low trust environments, which you find typically in the global south, the most important thing is relationships. Relationships are super important. Relationships build relationships, which build other relationships.
The best advice that I've received, and it's something that I've applied in all areas of my life, from sports to marriage to everything else, is you can never control the outcome. All you can control is your attitude and your effort. So when things are going wrong, it's about controlling your attitude towards that and being positive.
Is that you need to really understand the customer journey and respect what they want to see throughout each stage of the process. How we do this is that we micro-focus on surveying them at almost every point without trying to get too predatory on that, and utilizing those lessons, however painful if it's negative, to really engender new and better ways for us to do things.
One of our first investors in our business, a gentleman named Dr. Kiran C. Patel from Tampa, Florida, when he wrote us our first check, he gave us a piece of wisdom which said, if you do the right things for the right reasons, the right results will always follow.
Having the right partners, right, is the best thing you can do for yourself, right? As much as I said earlier, maybe having a great team, but when it comes to B2B, you must understand, where you play, and partners that sort of like collaborate and enhance your journey. I think that is super important.
There are a lot of misconceptions and myths about entrepreneurship and doing business, and specifically in the context of Africa as a continent. The most important thing to bear in mind is Africa is not a country, it's a continent. This is a really, really important thing. If you think that something that you deliver in Nigeria will work the same way in South Africa, or something you do in Botswana will work the same way in Kenya, that's not true at all.
One myth I've been told about the B2C industry in Africa is that it's extremely difficult to expand across African countries. While I certainly think that's true for industries such as fintech, where you need different regulations per country, it really isn't true across the board. And Catalyze U is testament to that. We've expanded into 16 African countries in our first 10 months because our products are attainable and applicable to Africans across the continent, regardless of whether they're from Senegal, Eritrea, or South Africa.
If you understand the industry, the myths of being too risky, might not necessarily be true, but there's a lot of myths around, risky governance and also that impact, working in B2B space.
What are the misconceptions about B2B in Africa? I'd like to quote the founder of Harambeans, who actually quoted today the story of Dr. Mo Ibrahim, who is one of the founders and pioneers of telecoms across the continent of Africa, when he says that Africa is filled with opportunities, but all that gets sold are its problems. And that is the biggest misconception, particularly in the B2B space.
So what does being a Harambean mean to me? For me, it's really twofold. Africa has a significant amount of challenges, but it's about thinking about them as opportunities. These are seriously difficult challenges, and as Harambeans, we need to be comfortable with doing hard things and solving hard problems.
What does being a Harambean mean to me? It's a great question. When I was joining the Alliance, one of the questions was, why are you joining? And I think the great thing is entrepreneurship is a lonely journey. It's absolutely incredible to meet people who are on the same wavelength as you, share the same problems as you, and have the same challenges, and most importantly, want the exact same thing for our home continent.
I'm a very new Harambean and I'm still learning lots, but I would say being a Harambean probably ties into very much my idea of being a free marketeer and the importance of what we do. So Harambeans very much focus on service and serving others, and I think any entrepreneur either subliminally or very actively serves others. By building a business, you're creating jobs, you're providing a service that the market wants, and any service that the market wants is essentially a form of helping others.
In one word, it means, future. I'd say that when I joined Y Combinator last year, for me, I've always been building, in isolation. I've always built, but that community sort of helped me understand, the place of, building faster, right? And that is beyond what you're building, the macroeconomics and the community. So I think being an Harambean for me means that collectiveness of, driving Africa forward. I think that clearly Africa is the future. We all know that. Because the opportunities are in Africa. So many things that we can think of, population, everything is sort of driving towards Africa. My vision is an optimized Africa, an Africa where the world now reckons with, not as, secondary players, but primary players, that are active and critical, in the future of the world.
I think we would have succeeded as Harambeans, and we would have succeeded as entrepreneurs and people who put the continent front and center and the continent's needs front and center. The day we realize that you do not have to leave the continent to realize your full potential, and not just us as the privileged few, but each and every single African realizes that they do not have to leave Africa to realize their full potential.
What's my dream for the future of Africa? So I think on a personal level, the opportunity that I saw in Africa, why I wanted to build a company here, is because I believe that the next generation or the future we're at the most exciting time of different industrial economies and industrial revolution.
By 2050, Africa is set to have both the largest and youngest workforce in the world. And with that, I really aspire for us not just to be serving low-level jobs, which Africa is currently known for, but to become the powerhouse for productive intellectual growth globally.